are a lot of movies that are based on a true story, and there is a wide range of topics that they cover: sports, disasters, wars, and plenty more. But one film covered one of the worst times within the past couple of decades. Or, more specifically, how certain people profited from one of the worst times of the past couple of decades. This is The Big Short. To put it simply, The Big Short is a movie that covers the housing crisis back in 2008 and shows how a few separate groups of people figured out that there was going to be a crash, as well as how they managed to profit from it. And while that story is all well and terrible, I like the movie, but a lot of people got screwed from this. That's not what we'll be looking at here. Instead, I'd like to take a look at what makes this based on a true story movie stand out from others. So, a lot of these movies had to, improvise or add a few things that may or may not have been there in the original, and this movie isn't any different from those. So, what exactly is the thing that makes this one so special? The answer lies within a concept called the fourth wall. The fourth wall is a concept that's been around since entertainment's beginnings. It's the metaphorical space between the viewer and whoever is performing, or talking, or doing literally anything that involves, a viewer thing. Whoever's on stage or on screen does not acknowledge the viewer's existence because, to them, they are not there. And that's the case for pretty much anything in entertainment. That is, unless one of those characters decides to look beyond their set. Breaking the fourth wall and acknowledging the viewer opens up a brand new dynamic for entertainment, since the viewers generally have no way to interact back to the character after the character interacts with them. And this has been done in pretty much every form of media you could think of: TV shows, video games, comics, plays, and of course, movies. From Dora the Explorer, to Deadpool, to Daffy Duck, to Discord from My Little Pony. What is it with characters who could do this that start with the letter D? Characters have been doing this for years in a variety of different ways, and this movie is no exception to the rule. When looking at The Big Short, it's interesting to note that it has 3 different ways of breaking the fourth wall. And also kind of a fourth one. We'll talk about that one later. The first way that the movie breaks the fourth wall is the most common way: narration. Narration is an interesting one, since on the surface, it doesn't sound like a fourth wall break, but it actually is, since the narrator is technically a character in whatever medium it is, and that character is speaking directly to the audience. Even though, for the most part, characters don't know that there is a narrator, the character exists regardless. However, this movie takes a narrator role in a bit of a different direction. There is only one narrator in this film, and that is the character named Jared Vennett. Now, Vennett playing both a character in the movie and a narrator isn't something new. It's actually been done in a lot of stories. However, Vennett breaks the fourth wall not just by narrating, but through the second method of breaking the fourth wall: directly talking to the audience. Now, Vennett isn't the only character that stares right at the camera to say something to the audience. There are actually 3 other characters who do this in the movie: Jamie Shipley and Charlie Geller, who broke the fourth wall while talking about how they first started out, as well as how the story of the movie was slightly embellished on how they found out about the crash in the first place. And a one-off character named Yang. Sorry, Vennett gave me the wrong name here. Zhang, who explains that pretty much everything that Vennett brags about him is just for show to get people on board with his ideas. However, Vennett is the only character in this movie who does both narration and also addresses the audience as his own self. And it actually happens right at the start of the movie. Vennett goes on to explain how the housing crisis had its origins in both narration and by him staring at the camera while saying all of this. And he remains a constant throughout the movie, providing insight, albeit with a bit of help with the third method: celebrity guests. There are a total of 3 scenes in this movie that help explain certain concepts in the world of banking to make things a bit easier for the viewer to understand what's happening and why it's happening. The first was Margot Robbie explaining how mortgage bonds and how the banks actually filled most of these bonds with shit, and how shorting a bond is essentially betting against a bond in the first place. All while in a bubble bath with some drinks to keep attention. So that's fun. The second was done by Anthony Bourdain in his natural habitat of kitchen. He's there to explain what CDOs are by using food in the restaurant business as the model for it all. The third and final time a celebrity was used for the fourth wall was done with two people, Richard H. Thaler and Selena Gomez, explaining what a synthetic CDO is while gambling, since it can relate back to gambling and betting. Now, there's also a semi-fourth method of breaking the fourth wall in this movie. There are actually multiple occasions where they just throw some text on the screen explaining something really quick. Sometimes it gives the full name for what an ISDA agreement is, sometimes it shows a person's name, and it even used a visual image for what an inflamed epidemis is. It's not exactly a traditional fourth wall break per se, but it does provide additional insight for certain topics, and is kind of a way for the director and the editor to give their own insight towards, the audience. When putting all this together, you get a movie that has done something that either very few or no other based on a true story movies have. The fourth wall breaks really helped this movie stand out in my eyes. It helped me stay engaged in the already engaging story that was being told, while also explaining some important concepts as to why this happened in the first place. It culminates into an interesting film with a unique take on a true story, and is able to give an identity to a movie outside of the interest on a true story.